welcome guys once again to one of our sessions for KEX Plus, webinar series for SEO Reseller. So if you have been, joining us in the past few sessions, you will be very familiar with who I have on board today. If it's your first time joining, thank you again for joining us. If you've been following us around for quite a while, thank you for your continued support. That's great. But yeah, today we'll be talking about something that all of us normally really do as part of, agencies for digital marketing. Right. But today we'd like to actually break it down and talk about it, really turn it into actionable items, right? Something that you can start to really work on as 2023 starts, right? So,
and start planning, right?
Well, yeah.
Start planning for your 2023.
That's true. So it's really about jam-packed sales hacks for 2023.
Right.
And again, I have here with me, very familiar with him. I have Mr. Burns over here. It's been around for quite a while. Technically, more than 10 years.
12 years. It's my 12th year.
Right.
I'm as old as SEO Reseller.
That's true.
We set it up the year I came on board.
Right. Former general manager for SEO Reseller. Since moved on to a different brand, but still part of the overall company or umbrella company. But yeah, I know, Burns, you've been going through this week, like a whole session, like a planning session for 2023. So how are you? You still have brain juice?
So absolutely right. And I would say planning for 2023 is it's a bit late, right? Normally this happens, like ideally this happens around November with some bigger brands. They start doing it in October. But I have to say, while I'm not in a rush to get past 2022,
right?
I am pretty excited for the stuff that we have planned for 2023.
So did you go through the same topic maybe in your sessions?
Well, we did, like, because when you talk planning, you're impacting everything, right? From your marketing to your sales to the way you operate to your finances, and all of those are part of the planning. So sales is definitely a part of it. And on the last 2 days, so which was today and tomorrow, right? We're actually going to get to the actionable stuff, which sort of leads me to the start of this conversation, right? Where I think sales is a general topic, but I think what might make this webinar valuable to you is we tried to make sure that it was filled with actionable items. Like I'm a fan of actionable stuff. I'm not a fan of platitude, principle, right? I'm not a fan of those. Not to say that I don't have any.
right. I agree. Like I like those theories and concepts. That's
right. But I like seeing stuff in action. I like bite-sized pieces of information. I like actionable stuff that I can put on deadlines, stuff that I can measure. And so we thought we'd do a jam-packed sales hack webinar for 2023, like stuff you need to start ironing out, stuff you need to start getting done to make sure that your business is on the right track for 2023.
Okay. Well, before we start, I just want to remind you again, guys, of the house rules we have. There's a conversation. Talk to us. Ask questions, right? There will be a 10-minute Q&A session at the end anyway. We'll take note of your questions. And resources will be available after the session. We'll upload the recording and everything. So it will be available for you to download.
And you get out of this what you put in, right? So I strongly encourage you guys, if we say something that might be at odds with something you learned, you didn't quite get it, feel free to utilize the chat and drop your question so that we can address it on the last 10 minutes of the convo.
All right.
Okay. So without further ado, let me give you a sneak peek into the stuff that we're going to be talking about. So when we say, sales hacks or jam-packed sales hacks, there really are there are more than 5 actionable things that you need to do, but there are certainly about 5 general strategies that we want you to try out. Hack number 1, fine-tune your marketing. Hack number 2, invest in your collateral. Hack number 3, nail down your sales process. This one is super important. Hack number 4, understand your lead life cycle. And, I'll be the first to admit, hack number 5 is a bit self-serving, but it is important, right? Like it is rare that a US SEO company, that a US based digital marketing company does everything in-house, or else you'd just be priced out of the market, right? You wouldn't be price competitive with everybody that you compete with in the market. And that's why most of the people that we deal with, like starter agencies, are either terrific salespeople or they were SEOs once upon a time.
Right.
Okay, so let's get started. How do you start moving to the actionable items to these hacks? Let's talk about hack number one. Thank you very much, Mr. CJ. So let's talk about hack number one. Fine-tuning your marketing efforts, right? Like, so let's talk about fine-tuning your marketing efforts. And when we say fine-tuning your marketing efforts, what we mean is getting the most bang for your buck, but not a tremendous amount of buck, right? When you have marketing initiatives, if we can go to the next slide, please. So when we talk about your marketing initiatives, there are very simple investments that you can reiterate and improve over time. Like especially if you're a starter agency, there are very simple investments that you can do. There are cost-effective marketing initiatives that you can do. And they don't need a tremendous amount of cash out, right? Like, in fact, with some of these items, we would have already created them for you, right? And I'll walk through what those are. But before you even do that, I think it is super important for a business to understand its positioning, right? And when I say nail down your niche, this is what I mean. I mean positioning. Who are you in the market and whose problem are you trying to solve? At True Logic, what I tend to talk to are brands, right? So they're bigger brands. They're like IKEAs and they're Emersons. But one of the things, like, you'd be surprised, brands tend to get as confused when it comes to messaging as much as small businesses do. And most of the time you land in pages where, it seems like the brand is talking to everybody. Like you'll see there 1, 2, 3, 4 products. And it seems like every product is right for you, right? Like,
who's your real target?
Right. Like I recently worked on a university for Australia.
Okay.
Not worked for them, right? I worked with True Logic and SEO Reseller. But I mean, I worked on their campaign.
Right.
And what I told them was, my problem with the content on your site is when I take a look at your MBA courses and your continued education and your entrepreneurship certifications and whatnot, it looks like everything is a good idea. So you didn't really help me narrow down which of these solutions help me solve my problem, right? And essentially what I'm trying to say is, a brand that talks to everybody talks to nobody. So let's say you are an SEO agency based in North Carolina, right?
Right.
So what you want to figure out is there a specific niche? Is there a specific vertical? Is there a specific problem that you want to solve, right? Like, do you want to solve the problems of auto dealers? Do you want to solve problems for chiropractors? Do you want to solve problems for private physicians? Do you want to solve, but nail down a niche. And I would say, if you're going to hit 2 niches because you want a larger market, sure. But at the minimum, try to hit 2 related markets. Try not to hit, markets that are so far apart.
Or at least try to do good first in like a small locality before you
expand. Yeah,
right?
because I mean, social proof is a big deal, right? And when people start seeing what a small business owner has to say about the experience with you and the service you provided, that goes a long way, right? Because that's social proof. And essentially the moral of this slide is, don't try to, if you are an e-commerce business, don't try to compete with Amazon, right? If you're going to put up a cafe, don't try to compete with Starbucks. And if you've got a small mom and pop shop, your competitor is not Walmart.
I mean, they can, but
Well, no, I mean, technically Amazon competes with everybody. Starbucks competes with coffee shops.
I mean, it's going to be extremely hard.
Right. So let's say you're e-commerce. How do you avoid competing with Amazon? And that would be by specializing in, I don't know, let's say electronics and let's say laptop accessories, right? As an example. Meaning you are the solution to the problem for everybody that owns a laptop. You're not selling laptops, you're selling laptop accessories and other electronic accessories, right? So Bluetooth headsets, cameras, extra chargers, micro SD cards, Bluetooth keyboards, your little terrific portable monitor, right?
Yeah, that's new.
So what you're selling are accessories. And because you're in this niche, you sort of have a better understanding of what is demanded in the market. Like most of the people that will have these accessories tend to be electronics enthusiasts. You
Right.
speak their language, you know what's in demand in the market. When they start talking about specs of devices, you understand it, right? So Amazon doesn't specialize in any of those. And the first thing you need to do is to specialize in something. You can generalize
Right.
later, right? Like, but this is not medicine where you begin as a general physician and
That's
then you have
actually
to
a good
specialize in
analogy.
something, right? Like this is
Yeah.
the opposite. In order to be successful in your positioning, in your niche, you have to figure out whose problem you solve. Are you an SEO for small gyms? Are you an SEO for only franchise gyms? Right? Are you an SEO for privately owned cafes? And so on and so forth. The other example would be if you're a cafe, who are you a cafe for, right? Are you a cafe for the local community? Is that what you're going to be known for? Are you a cafe for coffee enthusiasts? Are you specializing in the students of a specific campus? Are you specializing in solving the caffeine needs of the urban dwellers in your location? If you're in the suburbs, you know, are you specialized in providing coffee for the guys that need to hit work, right? And then providing a community for the people in your community the rest of the day. So this is what I mean when we say we say positioning, nail down your niche. Know what problem you're solving and who you're solving it for. That way, you're not talking to everybody, right? And it allows you the opportunity to be spectacular with a small market and then gradually increase your market, you know, after that. So first hack, nail down your niche, fine tune your marketing efforts, nail down your niche. Next, get your SEO started, right? Like if you're here, you know, and we're SEO reseller, then you're probably an SEO agency. I hope you're an SEO agency, right? But you more than anybody else know that SEO is a long-term strategy. How many times have I told you guys it's a marathon, not a race, right? Like you must have gotten sick with me telling you that over the years.
Not really, but it's true. You know, I've seen clients and the partners work on under SEO, or at least not being able to tell the clients that, hey, you got to do this like in the long run, or at least for the longer run.
Right. And especially in the US, right? That's never actually more true than in the US. Because I think for those of you that don't know, I actually specialize in the Asia Pacific region now. Right. And what most people don't realize is SEO is still easy in this region.
Actually, that's true.
You can still see results in like 3 weeks, a month.
Yep.
Right? You can still move like 60 positions up on the SERPs. But in the US, that's not true. Almost every vertical, almost every category is probably in the least moderately competitive. So you know that SEO is a long-term strategy. Start running your marathon early. Start now, right? Don't let your SEO be an afterthought of your website. Like, meaning, okay, I'll build my website now and I'll do SEO on it like when I get the budget. I'll do SEO on it next year. I'll do SEO on it when I get my 8th client, right? Like SEO cannot be an afterthought. And if you can't afford to put a service on it, like to pay for a service on it, at least do your own, right? Optimize your URL, meta title, H1. Insert your keyword in the first 100 words. I mean, start it early. If you can start building leased assets, like a link coming from a Facebook page or Twitter page, your
even YouTube,
LinkedIn, right? Like your YouTube channel, start doing that, right? Like building your Google business profile, your Apple Maps listing. If you can do any SEO on your own, like especially if clients are not keeping you busy yet, do it. But start your SEO campaign, because it's going to be a marathon and you will be better positioned to earn inbound leads the earlier you start. Okay, next. Let's talk about starting to collect your audience. Remember that your website is a salesman that works 24/7, right? Like your website is a salesman. It works 24/7. And it's never too early for you to start collecting your audience list or your mailing list. And I do this for like a lot of reasons. Whenever I build a website and I set up GA4, one of the things that I set up GA4 always is to be able to create audience segments. So take, for example, in my SEO agency, I offer web development, SEO, AdWords, and social media, right? For the people that visit my web development page, I define them as a web dev audience. For the people that look at my SEO page, I look at them as an SEO audience. And when I push content out, like when I do any form of display marketing, when I do any form of remarketing, I remarket to a specific audience list. So I don't try to throw content to an undifferentiated audience. I throw my SEO content, my SEO display ads and whatnot to my SEO audience, and I throw my web design ads to my web design visitors. But you don't have to wait for your SEO to start to drive you thousands and thousands of visitors before you start creating audiences. So here's where I meant here's why we're talking about sales hacks. Okay, so let's talk about how to start building your lead sources and your sales hacks. Okay, so a couple of things. First, there are a couple of places where you can capture leads, and all the way to the local level, by the way. Like there are places where you can capture leads from. There are tools like leads.biz, Apollo, Hunter, and I can speak for these because I've used them myself, right? So I've used these tools myself. And if I wanted to generate if I wanted a list of a couple of thousand small businesses in an area, I can use leads.biz, Apollo, Hunter. The good thing about these guys is they ask me to define a vertical, they ask me to define a location, and then it finds me the business details, like the name of the business, the location if appropriate, an email address. I will actually use another tool that verifies the email address. It's called Clearbit. And you can use other tools that do this too, right? Like tools that will verify whether an email address is valid. But I start collecting email addresses, and it's not a good email address if the email address is admin at, sales at,
right,
leads at,
most
inquire
likely
at, webmaster at.
It doesn't specify a specific person
No.
to talk to. So
Right. And come on, you're literally just spamming, right? Like these are probably mailing lists. So what I use these tools to be able to capture email addresses of either marketing practitioners or decision makers, right? I said these would be actionable, right? So if you haven't played with these tools, start playing with these tools. Try to see what kind of leads you can acquire by generating a list coming from these. So start lead sourcing, generate a list from a tool. Okay, next. The other thing that you can do, which I do, is I go to events, right? I didn't actually, so I am very in the lecture scene, in the public speaking scene.
I thought you were gonna say I'm a very extroverted person.
No, not at all, not at all. But I am very much into the lecture scene.
Right.
But before I was ever in the speaking scene, I was in the attending scene.
Correct.
Right? And sooner or later, you get to shake the right hands, and then they remember. Oh wait, who was that? We have an SEO topic. Who was that SEO guy we met at that place, right? So before I ever got into the speaking gig, I was in the attending gig. Everybody's got to start somewhere. And so I attended every relevant event in the market that I was interested in. Events have a lot of opportunities to network. Like, don't be shy. Find high quality leads. Normally for me, I never go to an event without a goal, and I actually give a goal to the people that attend with me. Like, so normally I'll go, and now I can afford to go with like 3, 4, 5 people.
Right.
But for me, it's always a contest, by the way. Like I always like to run a contest where I like to compete with how many business cards we can collect in an event. Right. And for me, what's worked, I don't know if it will work for you, but it might, right? I like to lurk near the coffee fountain, like near the coffee machines at events.
Right.
It helps that I can down like 8 cups of coffee.
Yep.
Right. So it helps.
Crazy.
But I tend to linger near the coffee, and I help people out. I hand them the sugar, I hand them the creamer, I hand them the milk. And that's where I start my small talk. Right. And that's where I exchange business cards. Like that's one place that helps me. I never do it in the boys' room.
I mean,
right?
sorry, it's good. I started to remember a story from one of our partners, and they're doing extremely well today. Yeah, used to join events. They actually created site audits on the spot for
Right.
people they talk to. Like, hey, like you have a website.
I
You know,
remember this. Right. So one of our best partners, like somebody that still works with us, and I think he's one of the Fortune 2000, Fortune 1000, like
1,000, I think.
fastest growing privately held businesses in the US, right? And this is what he did. Like he went to an event, got a laptop, and he goes what's your website? Let me
Yeah.
generate an audit for you. Here you go, it's free. Like what's your website? Let me generate an audit for you. Here, it's free. And he got email addresses just like that, right? He got email addresses like just like that. That's terrific. That's a great strategy. Now he doesn't even have to go there with a laptop. He can just do it on his phone, right?
True.
So go to an event, give yourself a goal. Don't just go there and enjoy yourself. Sure, enjoy yourself. But
Part of it.
remember that the event is an investment in your business. Go there to build a network. Go there to get to know people. Go there to collect business cards. But specifically, go there to start building your audience list. Okay, let's go to hack number 2. Hack number 2 is invest in your collateral. Okay, the first hack is easy, right? When you're creating your marketing collateral, it is super important that you tell a consistent story. Like, what does your brand stand for? It helps guide the sales conversations that you will get into. It can help boost your sales. And some samples of marketing collateral that you can create is stuff that we've actually made for you, right? But your marketing collateral matters because it can help turn your prospects into customers. I'll give you guys the first example. The first example is, if you've ever been in the SEO reseller dashboard, it's the audit, right? The audit is a tool that you can use for free. It's instant credibility, instant professionalism, instant friendliness, instant personal touch, right? But you sort of have to figure out like what you stand for. Remember the conversation about positioning. Your collateral helps you project what kind of emotional bullseye, what kind of image you want your brand to have. And it can be, it can be credibility. The audit, I think, does that.
Right.
It can be professionalism. I think your business card does that. You're family friendly, meaning you might be niching in family-owned businesses. But you sort of gotta figure it out. Now, some samples of collateral that you guys can use are: 1, the free audit. These are the actionable stuff, by the way. The free audit, like in the SEO reseller dashboard, if you haven't installed it in your website, install it. If you haven't used it, use it. Instant credibility. Another thing that you can use are report samples. Do you have sample reports, sample outputs that you can show people so that you can tell them, if you work with me, here's what you can expect? I think the executive summary reports, even the white label ones, are terrific. I show that to people here locally because I do use our tools. And everybody is still wowed. Like when they see, oh, wow, I can see how much progress I made compared to the previous month. Oh, wow, I can see how many keywords I'm ranking for in the snack pack, right? So use the audit, build out sample reports. This is number 2. Case studies. If you've been in this game a while, then you've probably already done some good for someone. Brag about it, right? Brag about it. If you don't lift your own chair, nobody will do that for you. So case studies, write them down. If you don't know how to do it, there are case studies on our resource pages. I know I publish some on TrueLogic, right? But publish your case studies, show people how good you are. You might be really good, but people don't know that. And it is not on them to figure that out. It is on you to communicate that. Another one might be your portfolio of clients, not your website, not a portfolio of websites, your portfolio of clients, right? The logos of your clients. Who are the people that you work with? And again, this goes back to positioning. It is something when people see that, all of the logos you represent are small business in your community. It is something when people see the names, when you go to an event, and then they see all logos of physicians, right? It is something when people see that everything you service are small, quick service restaurants in your area. But try to keep it as uniform as you can, right? But you do want a portfolio, and building a PDF or a PowerPoint of this would be super easy. but a portfolio of the brands you've worked with, because it's instant credibility, it's instant track record, right? And then the last one, and in my opinion, the easiest one, but I don't see enough people doing, are testimonials, right? What your customers have to say about you is the experience that's the experience that your prospects can look forward to. So try to get people to write your testimonials. If your customers love you, they would love to write this about you.
And if I'll be honest, it was harder way back without social media to get this kind of feedback.
Right.
Like they had to either drop by the office, like in person to ask for this feedback. Nowadays, they go online, they go to your Facebook page or whatever.
Your Google business profile.
Google My Business profile reviews and just leave it there. So very easy.
Right.
Upload it to your website.
Right. Okay. Now let's go to hack number 3. Hack number 3 is super important, and it might take up the bulk of the time we have, right? So I'll try not to linger too much. Nail down your sales process. Like, I can't even stress this enough, but nail down your sales process. Sales is not a talent. It's not a history. There are some people that are predisposed to be better at it, right? Like if you've got the gift to gab, if you've got a particularly silver tongue,
right?
Like there are some people that are if you're tall and good looking.
It's true,
right?
Part of it.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Most U.S. presidents are tall,
right?
Like, so
I call them the handbags, right?
Right. So I think it is super important that you follow a standardized sales process. In a sales process, there are things that people say: overcoming objections and then rebuttals, right? Like people are taught in a standard sales process, oh, here are the rebuttals to an objection. But in reality, what I like to teach people is objections only happen when something is broken in your sales process. Right. But if you're not following a sales process, then you sort of can't nail down where that objection came from, right? So when you're measuring, when you're trying to figure out how do I get better at sales, you want to figure out, are you not preparing well enough? Are you not listening to your client? Are you pitching the wrong thing? Are you hitting the wrong emotional bullseye? Did they not understand the product? Were you getting too technical? You're never going to know what went wrong in a sales call, in a pitch, if you don't have a sales process. So let's go quickly through 7 steps in a sales process. Okay, so the general steps in a sales process. Step number 1, prep, right? Step number 1, preparation. This is in reality step 0. Like I like to call it step 0, but preparation is the first step. I have one. I've got a favorite sales author. Actually, I've got several. I Chet Holmes, but Jeffrey Gitomer is one of my favorite sales authors. And there's a line that he says that stuck with me ever since I started selling. It is be prepared. Be prepared to go to the sale or lose to the ones that do. Right? Prep for the sale or be ready to lose to the ones that do. So, and I think it's super important in the age where the word Google is both a noun and verb. Right. If you're not Googling your prospect, they are Googling you. Even worse, if you're not Googling your prospect, your competitors are Googling your prospect. Now, this will have to do with building rapport. Like it will go to building rapport. One of the most important things why you have to prep for your prospect, and I mean prep meaning research who you're going to talk to. Don't just research the business. Research who you talk to. Remember, a business is not the one deciding whether you win the sale or not. It's a person, right? And we all have emotional buying criteria. I do the preparation to I do the prep specifically so that I can utilize one of the tools here on building rapport. It's common ground. I try to find out, are they dog people? Because I'm a dog person. I try to find out what school they went to. I try to find out, are they married? I'm not married. I can't use that as common ground. But, I try to find out, are they married? Are they single? Do they like dogs? Are they family oriented? Are they conservative? Do they volunteer, right? And I make a note of that to try to bring that up in the call, and I'll tell them, oh, you're a dog person. I've got 3 dogs. What kind of dogs are you raising, right? Like I don't say what kind of dogs do you have, like, you know, I feel like that objectifies dogs. But anyway, so I try to tell them what kind of dogs do you raise? What kind of what breeds of dogs are you taking care of? So I like to talk about dogs like kids. So I asked them this because common ground is is a terrific accelerator of the bonding process. Because the next step to a sales process after prep is building rapport. You're trying to establish a connection. You're trying to establish, in my view, an emotional connection between you and your client, your prospect. And there are a couple of tricks that you can use. Like one of the tools for building rapport is called 50% time. 50% time is simple. 50% of the airtime during the sales process, your prospect should be talking. If you are talking more than 50% of the airtime, you're losing the sale. The next one is mirroring, especially effective when you're doing it face to face, right? Because mirroring is more than just using the same words, speaking in the same pace. Mirroring is more importantly body language. One of the things that I do in a sales call is I look for the decision maker around the table, if it's that, right? And I will deliberately copy the decision maker's body language. Like if they've got their arms crossed, I will cross my arms. I will copy their body language thrice, and then I will attempt to change my body language like somewhere in the latter half of the conversation. And what I'm looking for is, did they copy my body language? It means that I'm acquiring their emotional buy-in. If I change my posture and they don't follow, it's like, oh, I am failing on the rapport section of my sale, right? Humor is another important tool that you guys can use. If you're a funny guy, use it, right? Because there is, if you guys read books on influence, Daniel Kahneman's got a great book. There's also another book. There's Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow, and then there's Dan Ariely's book. And there's a mental bias there that they call survivorship. Survivorship is just memorability, right? Survivorship is just a big fancy word to say it, but it's called survivorship. Humor makes you very memorable very quickly. Use it. Okay, let's move on. So prep, rapport. After you've built rapport, the next thing that you need to do is you need to qualify. You want to get closer to the sale. So sure, you're starting to emotionally bond with your client. You're doing 50% time. By the way you do 50% time is by asking open-ended questions. When you're qualifying, you tend to ask more close-ended questions. You're starting to ask questions that are categorical, that can be answered by yes or no, that have specific answers, because now you're trying to get specific pieces of information, right? Remember that your time is valuable. And not all leads are good. Like, let's face it, you might exchange business cards with, I don't know, 50, 100 people inside an event. You don't need to call all of them, right? But you want to figure out who would be a good prospect, who would be a great relationship, who would be a great customer, right? And the way you figure that out is by figuring out what is the budget, the authority, the need, and the time frame, the band. But when you qualify, when you're in the qualifying stage of the sale, you're trying to figure out, what is this prospect's budget? Are they the decision maker to the deal? Is their need a problem I can solve, right? And is it happening in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? But this, by and large, is the most important aspect of qualifying. You want to find out whether you're working with a great lead or not, because you don't have infinite amounts of time. You don't have infinite amounts of energy, right? So you want to aim that at the potentially most productive list that you've got. So qualify your leads. Next, after qualifying, the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to start building desire. And building desire is really just you harping on the emotional bullseye, right? Remember that when a person is buying SEO, the SEO is the commodity. That's not the product, right? If they're buying SEO, is it because they want more leads? Is it because they want more sales? Is it because their boss told them so, right? But the person buying SEO is never really buying SEO. And here's a great example, right? It's building desire is all about context. It's all about context. So as an example, let's say a person looking to hire pest control, right? Like a person with a termite problem. When a person is hiring pest control, they're not hiring pest control because they've got a pest to control, right? Like if you just think about it that way, then you're sort of objectifying your audience. Add some context to it. What if the person calling you has a pest problem with a house that was owned by their parents and their parents' parents and their parents' parents' parents? Like it's an ancestral home. They're trying to save an old family home. This person is not trying to save a piece of property. This person is trying to save a memory. This person is trying to save a heritage. And all of a sudden it changes the perspective. Find out what your customer's emotional bullseye is and build desire for your product or service. Meaning don't just sell them the commodity, right? Satisfy the emotional decision-making criteria. Once you've done that, you can move on to the next step, which is the pitch. This is where you position your product or service. Now, I have one requirement. I think everybody knows how to pitch, right? You just tell them, here's the product, here's what it does, here's why I think it's right for you. What do you think, right? But before you get into that conversation, there is a technique I want you to employ, and it's called priming. Priming is really just setting your customer into a yes frame of mind. And how I execute priming is I review the context of the conversation with the prospect. I'll tell them, okay, so from what I understand, you feel you need SEO, right? Yes. And from how I understood the conversation, you need it for reason A, B, C. Do I understand that correctly, right? And they'll go like, yes. And it is to achieve goal A, goal B, goal C. Yes. The moment I get my prospect to say 3 yeses, this is when I throw the pitch. Like only now will they see the formal proposal with the price tag. Prior to this, I don't show them the price, and I never let the pricing stand alone. But when you execute your pitch, prime first before you do the pitch. Now, so after you've primed, you do the pitch. Now you do a close. I don't like to ask for. I don't like my closing statement being a question. I like my closing statement being a statement, right? And so the way I make my closing statements is something similar to the example that I've got on the screen, right? I say, hey, thanks for the conversation. I really feel you're making the right decision. I feel really good about the collaboration between you and I. Where would you like the invoice? In your personal or business mailbox, right? I'm not asking them, are you ready for the invoice? You're gonna get an invoice, right? Or even locally. It's because locally I send a contract. I normally don't tell people you should have a contract, right? Like, but locally it is an expectation. So I tell them, do I send the contract to person A or do I send the contract to you, right?
So it's technically you're not giving them an option to say no.
No,
in a sense, right?
I'm gonna send you a contract.
Correct.
Right? I just want to know if it's you or this other guy. But I'm going to send you a contract. I mean, what's the worst that could happen, right? They'll say no. What are you going to do? Cry? Right. Now here's the clincher. If you've done everything correctly, if you prep, built rapport, qualified well, built desire, done the pitch, and closed well, like if you've done this well, you should proceed to a closed sale. You should proceed to a closed sale minimum 1 out of 3 times. If you don't, the client will give you an objection, right? Objection, your honor.
You may have missed it, like the part where you just totally shut up.
After you yeah. I'm super important note. Yeah, let's go back one slide here. Super important note. There is one big mistake I think salespeople make. One of the most important things that you need to do in a sale is to shut up after the closing statement, right? I've got a rule. The first person to talk after the closing statement drops loses the sale. Yep. The first person to talk after the closing statement loses. The most important thing you can do after the closing statement is to shut your mouth, right? The first person to talk loses.
Try and test it.
Yeah. So it is super important because if you've primed, if you capture, if you hit the emotional bullseye, it is super important that you are quiet Don't be tempted to break the awkward silence. That awkward silence is working in your favor. Okay, last step. Objections happen if something was wrong in your sales process. Objections happen when something went wrong with your sales process, right? And that's why it is super important that you are following a sales process, because you want to understand, did you not prep right? Did you fail to build an emotional connection? Like, did you fail your rapport section? Were they not qualified? Is this not an ideal client for you? Did you pitch the wrong product, right? Did you hit the wrong emotional bullseye? Or even worse yet, and by the way, this is common. 3 out of 4 salespeople don't ask for the business. They don't do a closing statement. Is that the mistake, right? But find out where a mistake happened in your sales process, because you're going to have to go back to that in order to reacquire the sale. Now, let's say an objection does happen. I'm not a fan of a rebuttal script. I'm not a fan of a rebuttal script. I am a fan of a rebuttal process, right? And when I don't rebut objections, I address objections. And the steps that I follow when I address objections are, I acknowledge the objection. I tell them, I hear you, and I can understand where that comes from, right? But sometimes your clients will say, wait, I'm not ready. It just sounds like it's too fast, and I need to figure out this and blah and blah and blah. And you might hear like 5 different reasons. So what I do is I tell them, hey, I hear you, and I can understand where some of the hesitation comes from, but can you help me understand it, right? And what I try to do is I isolate it. Is it the time frame that's problematic? Is it the price range? Is it the budget that's problematic? Did you try to put them a contract, and is the duration of the contract too long, right? But isolate what the objection is, and then own it, right? Show them how, remind them how what you just pitched solved their problem, and remind them how important it is to solve that problem, and then tell them, here's what I can do. And then, find a way to meet them halfway. Find a way to meet them halfway, give them a net 30 arrangement, give them a discount on the first month or whatnot, but do something about it. Don't just brush the objection aside, okay? So those are the quick sales hacks. Now, let's move on to hack number 4. Hack number 4 is about understanding your lead life cycle. What does this mean? What does understanding your lead life cycle mean? What does that mean to you? And your lead life cycle is how long it takes from initial contact to you closing the sale. It's your lead time, yeah, right? Or your lead life cycle. Like take, for example, in the business that I run locally, it's about 53 days from the time I do a discovery call, like meaning I try to find out what they need. I try to qualify them. From the time of the qualifying call to the time they sign the contract and start paying, it takes about 53 days worth of consideration on average. There are ones that are like pretty quick, like ones where I talk to you today, you're my client tomorrow or a week from now, right? But the more you understand your lead life cycle, the more you are able to simulate the care, the more you are able to automate the process of turning them into your customers. And the key to this is tracking the progress of the deal, right? Like knowing which stage of the deal your prospect is in, right? Are they in the attraction phase? Are they in the engagement phase? Like meaning you are discussing an audit with them, you're in the process of getting them to like a proposal, you're negotiating a price. Are they in the nurture stage, meaning they're not your engage is for your hottest leads? Nurture is for your warm leads, but they're not, could be warmer, but they're not corpses, they're not cold, they're not ice cubes. But the leads you nurture are the ones where they think it's a good idea, but they're not sure if they're ready for it. Don't just drop them, like nurture them and do it in an automated way. Or are they at the conversion stage, meaning are they a day away from signing it? Are they a negotiation away from giving you the deal? And remember that what you need to do is you need to move your prospects along your sales funnel, right? You need to mature them down your sales funnel. So you want to get them from aware to educated to attracted to converted, right? You need to turn them into your customers. You need to turn your prospects into your customers. And make sure that you understand what is the biggest concern of your prospect at every stage in the deal, right? When they're in the education research phase, they need somebody to teach them. right? And so you providing them information from your website, from your newsletters, can be terrific value adds. Now, a couple of tips, like these are the actionable things to hack number 4. Hack number 1, like automate where you can or automate where you can afford. It frees up time and energy. I'll give you guys a great example. HubSpot has some really good marketing automation tools, right? And I think the entry level for HubSpot for you to get all its features, it's got a free version. That's one. But 2, I think in order for you to automate some marketing activities, you need to pay like $49 a month. But it does free up time and energy. The nurture part is essentially automated, right? You're staying in touch with your prospects. Hack number 2, use a CRM like HubSpot, right? Or use a simple tracker. Use a simple tracker. When I say simple tracker, I don't say make one, download one. There are so many good ones online. Right.
For free too.
Yeah, and free. So if you're on a budget, if you don't think you're ready to commit to a CRM, sure. But personally, I'm not a fan of tracking things on an Excel sheet. And then set guidelines for when to follow up. Remember that in a sales situation, you are always the suitor, right? Like you are always the suitor. So give yourselves guidelines for when you follow up, when you rewarm the relationship. And then find out, make sure that you A/B test your messaging. Like don't just create canned message after canned message after canned message. That's the easiest way to get marked as read. But try to A/B test what message your potential customers are most conducive to. The worst thing you can do in this stage is to manually email to keep the relationship warm, right? You don't want to manually do that. Okay. Let's move on to hack number 5. I'll be quick. I'll be quick with hack number 5. Hack number 5 is really outsource to the right partner. I will give you some actionable tips here. Okay. In my experience, in our experience at SEO Reseller, prospects don't usually outsource when they've got their first client, except when they're branching out into SEO, right? Like if they're a web design company and then they branch out to SEO, they don't have a choice but to outsource because everybody in the business is a designer or a developer, right? So with that exception, most of the time, if people start an SEO agency, what they do is they outsource once they've got their 4th client, because it seems like the 4th client seems to be the threshold where if they were selling, account managing, and operating, like meaning they are their own technician, it seems like the limit is 4 clients, right? Because in reality, you are 3 roles, right? You're a salesman, you're an account manager, and you are an operator. You are your own SEO, you are your own technician. And so if you are approaching or are past 4 clients, one of the best advice I can give you as a business owner is outsource it, right? So that you can focus on your core, so that you can focus on working on the business, not in the business. Because chances are the people that you outsource to, this is what they do day in and day out, right? Just make sure that you find an outsource provider that executes to the quality you expect, whose work speaks for itself, they've got a good track record, and that the cost fits, like it makes you profitable. You're not just, giving them money. What outsourcing does is it helps you avoid, and this is a no-brainer, right? It helps you avoid costs that are associated with hiring, like paying for a recruiter and their 401k and their benefits and whatnot, right? When you outsource, you're really just paying for the work that you need, no more, no less.
I wanted to add to that it's so easy to fall into the fulfillment trap. I mean,
right. I sort of agree.
Right. You got to get things done. You got to talk to this existing client instead of, growing your portfolio, talking to new prospects.
And I like one of the things that I discover with people that like especially SEO agency owners that are SEOs, their biggest concern is, but what if they don't execute the work the way my clients have come to expect from me personally? Look, SEO is technical, on page, off page, content, and localization, right? Like that's what SEO is. How different could that be, right? The worst thing that an outsource provider might get wrong is content, right? In which case you either QA them instead of doing it yourself, or you send it to another provider that you think might be better, right? But But that's it, right? Technical SEO is technical SEO. Link building is link building. Localization is localization. Right? On page is on page. So there really isn't a lot that your personal touch can make. But there is something that your personal touch can do when it comes to managing the relationship, right? So as soon as you've got an excuse to get out of the nitty-gritty of working in your business, get out so that you can work on your business. And that's it, really, right? To wrap us up, hack number one, fine-tune your marketing. Hack number two, invest in your collateral. Fine-tune your marketing is just you deciding what your positioning is, right? Investing in your collateral is just, use the audit, get testimonials from your customers, have a portfolio of the brands that you have worked with. So that's it. Hack number two. Hack number three, understand your sales process. Your sales process is know how to prep, know how to build rapport, know how to qualify, know how to build desire, know how to pitch, know how to close, and know how to overcome objections. And hack number four, understand your lead life cycle. Use a free CRM. HubSpot has a free version, right? Or pay for a cheap one, or use free lead trackers that are available online. And then hack number five is outsource to the right partner.